Namaste Swagatam. We are very delighted to continue with the series on the Bhagavad Gita, a summary of each chapter, totaling 18, so that we may comprehend how our ancient texts are replete with traditional wisdom that is very relevant to current times, an essential learning to solve our problems of both the here and the hereafter. We have with us Arati Nagarajan ji, a student of Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati ji, who has studied the Bhagavad Gita in detail at the Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, Anekati, Coimbatore, as a full-time student of Vedanta and Sanskrit from 2014 to 2017, under the guidance of Acharya Swami Sadatmananda Saraswati ji. She has worked in the IT industry for 12 long years prior to joining this course, and she has taught the entire Bhagavad Gita once and is presently teaching it online for the second time. Vanakkam Aarti ji, thank you so much for agreeing to guide us with the summaries of the Bhagavad Gita chapters. I'm going to start with a few questions as usual. In this chapter 4, or any text that we come across, any sacred text, the first question people ask is, when was this text written and by whom? So, although historicity is not our tatparya or purpose in studying the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan does touch upon the origins of this knowledge in this chapter. Can you please shed light on this, and also why Bhagwan brings some history into this very purely philosophical and spiritual treatise?
Sure. Namaste, everybody. It's a good question. Bhagavan starts this chapter, or in fact, the chapters are our own creation. Bhagavan didn't teach in chapters. But then the fourth chapter begins with Bhagavan glorifying this knowledge here by showing that this knowledge is not something new. It has been there since the beginning of creation. It has been given by the Lord Himself. Why does He say all this? And He shows also that it has been passed down from Him at the beginning of creation. He manifested the Vedas, and this knowledge was contained in the Vedas, and He taught this knowledge to Vivaswan, the head of the solar dynasty. We know that we have this popular two clans, the solar clan and the lunar clan, the Surya Vamsha and the Chandra Vamsha. Surya Vamsha, we know who belongs to Surya Vamsha. Lord Rama came in that Vamsha. The head of that Vamsha is Surya Bhagavan himself. So Bhagavan says at the beginning, I gave this knowledge to Surya Bhagavan, Vivaswan. And then he further passed it down to his son, Manu. Then he passed it down to his children, and it has been coming down in this parampara. Why does Bhagavan talk about all this? There is an inner meaning to it. Why? Because any teaching is in the form of a dialogue between the student and the teacher. Because this is knowledge to be understood. So that requires a teacher to unfold this knowledge, and it requires a student who is able to receive this knowledge. This is not something which is scriptural knowledge. Sometimes we can translate Vedas as scripture, but scriptures are different. And pramana, the means of knowledge, is different. Now, Veda is presented as the means for this knowledge, and there is also a procedure in which this knowledge is received and passed down. That is called sampradaya. Sampradaya means the methodology of communicating this knowledge. That should also come down with this teaching. There are some Upanishads, there are various Upanishads in fact which hold this knowledge, but how are we going to understand what is being said? Because this knowledge is in the form of words, and words themselves have this innate defect of being subject to interpretation, being subject to wrong understanding. So, along with this knowledge, Bhagavan also gives this sampradaya, the methodology of unfolding this knowledge. It's like you give the treasure and the key to open that treasure. Without the key, the treasure is useless, right? So this knowledge is going to give me the ultimate goal in life, moksha. But then to get that knowledge, I need to understand it in a certain way. That also has to be passed down. So this methodology of communicating this knowledge comes down from the Guru Shishya Parampara. And who started this parampara, this lineage? The Lord Himself. So this is coming down from the Lord Himself. It is not created by any human mind, to show that it is apaurusheya. It is not a product of the human mind. The human mind is subject to a lot of defects. So this is not a product of the human mind. It is coming from the Lord. It is valid, and also to pass down this knowledge, there is required a sampradaya, a methodology of teaching that comes down from the Guru Shishya Parampara. To show all this, Bhagavan quoted in the beginning of this chapter that I started this knowledge, I started this teaching, I gave this knowledge, and it has been coming down in the form of Guru Shishya Parampara. But finally, he says, because he may have seen Arjuna raising his eyebrows, and why didn't I know this earlier? I also went to the Gurukula. Why didn't they teach me this? Bhagavan says, because of people like Duryodhana, this knowledge as diminished, as weakened, because there are no receptive people to get this knowledge. This knowledge has as to weakened. Therefore, you're not, you're finding this new, but I'm not cooking this up in the battlefield. This is ancient knowledge without a beginning.
So this chapter, when Bhagwan reveals himself to Arjuna, he says that he has come to the earth for a purpose, that it's an avataara. So is it Krishna the Yaadava or Krishna the avataara speaking here? And is Bhagavad Gita centered on a personality then? So how can we think of it as universally appealing, if so?
Yeah. There are many kinds of Gita. Apart from the Bhagavad Gita, there are so many Gitas. They enumerate above 60. You have Uddhava Gita, you have Ribhu Gita, you have Ashtavakra Gita, you have Rama Gita. So many Gitas are there, even in Mahabharata. We
Is
know
there a
that this
Bhishma
Bhagavad
Gita?
Gita.
I've heard of some Bhishma. No.
Yeah, I
There is.
think, yeah, there are many, even in just in Mahabharata, there seems to be multiple Gitas. And even the same teaching, in fact, is repeated by Bhagavan Krishna later in the Mahabharata. Because Arjuna says, it was the battlefield, I wasn't actually focusing so much.
Concentrate. Yeah.
What you said, I understood, but it's
Uh,
not remaining with me. Can you please teach me again? That is
After
called
18
Uttara Gita.
chapters, he wants again.
Yeah, after he got the kingdom
Yes.
back, after the war was over and he was
Yes.
enjoying the kingdom, he
Uh,
says, "No, I think I didn't get it properly. Can you please teach me again?" So that
uh,
is called Uttara Gita. So there are
Uttar.
so many Gitas, yeah, even in Mahabharata, apart from Mahabharata, in the Puranas, we find so many other Gitas. But only this Gita is called Bhagavad Gita. What does it mean? Bhagavataha Gita, the song of the Lord. In fact, it's not the song, but it's the teaching of Bhagavan himself. And we see that in the Mahabharata, until this point, when there is a dialogue, it is an itihasa, it is telling you what has happened, right? So if there is a dialogue, Shri Krishna Uvacha only. Krishna Uvacha. Krishna said. But only here in the Gita, what is there? Shri
Bhagavan.
Bhagavan Uvacha. So here, it is not Shri Krishna speaking as a Yaadava, but it is Bhagavan himself giving this teaching.
Excellent point. Yes.
In this fourth chapter, Bhagavan gives this avataara rahasya also. Why he took this avataara, or any avataara, why does he take? And I think everybody would have known because of our Mahabharata, you know,
TV
beginning
series.
song. Yeah, TV series. Yeah. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam. So he says that. So in order to protect the good people and in order to teach the wrongdoers a lesson, in fact to destroy adharma, Whenever there is an uprise in adharma which is weakening dharma, I take up an avataara. So, what is the secret of avataara? What does this mean? What is the meaning of avataara? It is God incarnating in a particular form. It need not be a human form also. If you look at Dashavatara, can be in any form, but it is in keeping with the need of the hour. Whatever is required to be done, in keeping with that, Bhagavan takes a particular form. So here Bhagavan Krishna has come down in order to take care of so many things apart from the Pandavas, apart from officiating and helping them, apart from being a charioteer to Arjuna in the war. But this is a big, important, significant part that he has played in giving the Bhagavad Gita. So here Bhagavan is talking.
Bhagwan is talking. Yes. That's why Bhagavad Gita. And also in this chapter, Bhagwan emphasizes nishkaama karma. And to understand the concept, at least for me and for others, if we take an example, let's say I want to be an IAS officer, I go for coaching classes for appearing for UPSC exams, I study hard, I don't waste time in any socializing, unnecessary socializing. And all this is because I desire something, or let's say somebody, if it is a person that a person wants, marriage, anything. But without any desire, I won't venture into anything. So, how does nishkama karma fit into my daily life, RTG? How is this concept fitting into what a person wants on a regular basis?
So, we have seen in the last chapter there was we had an elaborate discussion on what is nishkama karma.
I'm worse
So
than Arjuna. So, I need.
yes, yeah, yeah. Of course, we are going to see a little bit further because there is a question, and teaching is in the form of question and answer. The whole teaching, even Bhagavad Gita, is in the
Sorry, I'm
form of question
repeating the
and answer.
questions because I need
Yes.
clarity.
Sure, sure, yeah. It is allowed and it is appropriate. All right. Now, Nishkama Karma we have seen is actually performing one's duty, one's Swadharma, and we had seen it is called Vihita Karma or Nitya Karma, what is to be done. That is called Nishkama Karma. Why is it called that? Because you are put in that place based on the stage of life one is in, the society, the role that one is playing, the age. Based on that, there are some duties to be performed that comes along with that role, along with that position. So performing those actions is called nishkama karma, in fact. So that varies depending on who is performing the action. It can be based on varna, ashrama, it can be based on the age, it can be based on so many other things, the role the person has taken. That is nishkama karma. So when one is asked to do karma yoga, generally there is this misunderstanding saying one should not have any desire, one should perform nishkama karma, meaning karma without any desire. That's not possible. Any karma apart from vihita karma, apart from
Yes.
one's duty, if it is done, it is generally because of some desire that has come up in the mind. Right?
So, Vihita karma, we cannot bring in desire here. It is to be done, has to be done.
Yeah, yeah.
Desire does not play a role. It is you do
Yes.
somewhat. Okay. Rest of
If
it
you
is.
have, yeah, if you desire or don't desire, this is the duty you have to perform. So
So,
that is
duty.
why raga dvesha is neutralized. Likes and dislikes are neutralized by performing vihita karma, because we have seen it may not be something pleasant, it may not always be something that I like. So in all case, it may be that what I want to do, I should not do, and what I should not do, I want to do. So
Usually.
are both are neutralized, because you have to do even though you don't like it, and you should not do even though you want to do it. You like it, you should not do. That is alignment with dharma. We saw karma yoga, two definitions. Karma, kaushalam. Kaushalam is choosing the appropriate action. And then we saw samatvam, where we are receiving the result of action as Ishvara Prasada, there is equanimity of mind, relative equanimity to accept whatever comes. Right? Now, that apart, there is another type of karma we have seen, that is Kamya Karma, which is directed by desire, which has its origin in a desire. And Bhagavan is not saying you should not have any desires.
It's okay to do
Even
that with desires.
yes, even in desires there are two types. One is called binding desire, the other is called non-binding desire.
So how will I know the difference?
So how will I know the difference? Say I have a desire to have a mango, the season of mango. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
always.
And yes, and now somebody comes home and gives you a big box of nice, juicy, fresh mangoes, ripe mangoes that you like. Right? Now, if I have the mango, I'm going to have some pleasure. I like mangoes, therefore I'm going to have pleasure. Now, okay, let me have a mango. That is a desire. I want to have a mango, I'm having the mango. But say the mangoes are unripe when they come, and you wait for them to ripen. And
Yes.
then you finally discover after a few days that they have all rotten.
Oh,
No,
oh.
yeah. You had the desire to eat the mangoes, but when they were not fulfilled, how is your reaction? No, I should have a mango. Without the mango, my life is not fulfilled.
Complete.
I have to have the mango. I need to have the mango somehow. I have to have it. So when there is this kind of agitation in the mind, when there is a
Pressure.
lot of reaction in the mind, that this cannot be this way. It has to be this way. The desire has to be fulfilled. I cannot accept the non-fulfillment of the desire. That is called a binding desire, where
So
I cannot
insistence
accept
and
the
resistance.
absence. I'm sorry.
Sorry. So insistence and resistance. So insisting on a particular
Yes,
result. You were
exactly.
saying.
Insisting that it has to be this way and resisting if it is any other way. That makes it a binding desire. But if you say it's okay, if I have it, it's okay. Of course, I'll feel good having that mango. But even if I don't get it, then also it's fine. Of course, there may be a little bit of disappointment, but I can handle it, no problem. So I understand that it is possible that I'm able to fulfill the desire. It is possible that the desire may not be fulfilled also. So that is called a non-binding desire. And Bhagavan says you can have as many non-binding desires as you want, which align with dharma. That is also important. Dharmic desires, one is allowed to have. Legitimate desires, one can have. That is how a grihastha lives. A grihastha has an ambition in life, has some goals in life, has some desires to be fulfilled. One is allowed to pursue activities to pursue the desire and fulfill the desire. So that is called kamya karma, which is having its origin in a desire. Nobody performs any action without the desire for the result. We've seen prayojanam anudishya mandopi na pravartate. Without the purpose, without the expectation of the result in mind, even a manda buddhi, a dull-witted person will not engage in action. So what does it mean? What does karma yoga mean? It means please have desires. Of course, it's not promoting desires, but it's all right if you have a desire and you want to pursue fulfillment of the desire through some activity. All right, but then understand that you have a choice only with respect to the action. Action. You
Oh,
don't have a choice with respect to the result.
sorry. Yes. As in, I meant the
Yeah.
reaction to the results. There's also choice
Yes.
on how you react, right? No.
Yes, you have a choice, of course. Yes, that's the whole point. Yes, you have a choice with respect to the action that you perform. You can
Okay.
have desires. You can choose how you want to pursue the fulfillment of desires, of course, within dharma. So, earning money is a desire. You can earn money in so many ways. But then, please align to dharma. But even aligning to dharma, there are so many ways in which you can make money, right? So it's all right, you make money as a grihastha, you have to, have some money to fulfill your basic needs, and above that also, all right, earn money, but share it also. That is another thing. But you are engaging in this activity of fulfilling the desires. With respect to that, you have a choice. How you perform, or whether you want to perform, all that you have a choice. But then once you have performed the action, the result, understand that it is not under your control. That is the whole point of karma yoga, because we try to control the result of the action. We think it should be only in this way. In your example, becoming an IAS officer, by clearing that exam is my desire. So I prepare for it. I put all my effort in it. In that, I have a choice. But then, after I write the exam, the result, what
Wash
choice
my
do I
hands.
have? Yeah.
Nothing.
What choice do I have? The result is there. So, this acceptance of the result is the main thing. It makes a lot of difference. Only because we are not able to accept what comes to us when there is no choice. That's another thing. There are two types of results also, where you have a choice and where there is no choice. Choiceless situations and where you have a choice. If you think there is a choice where you can change the result,
We
where you
should
can
do that.
again sit for the exam, again you make again effort, you learn from what mistakes you have done, you prepare better, and you still can make another attempt. That is your choice. But then what comes, the result, what choice do I have? I understand that my effort alone does not influence the result. There is, of course, an influence. My effort is very important. But beyond my effort, there are so many other factors which come into play in giving the result. I understand that there is a law of karma which is created by the Lord, which is in play. And it's not just my karma, so many others. There are
Yes.
10 lakh people applying for some 10,000 positions. Then
That
everybody's
we
karma is involved. Yeah, right?
yes, yes, yes.
So everybody's karma is involved. My karma is involved. My effort is involved. My all other factors are involved. So many other things are involved. So I understand that this result is coming from the Lord. It is based on a fair law of karma. It is not partial to anybody. What I'm getting is what is appropriate. It is all right. It is perfect when there is no choice. If I'm able to accept that, that is called prasada buddhi. If I'm able to accept the result of action, then that is not having any reaction to it. That is called karma yoga. Not having this reaction to the result of action, being able to accept it as it comes. Of course, when there is a choice where you can change something, of course, if it is legitimate, if it is not going to cause any himsa, then one can
Do it.
change it. One can make efforts to change it. Yes.
Thank you. That clarifies it until next time when I might have it again. Because each time when I listen to you, it seems very clear. And then it's about a month until we meet again. And then again, So maybe I'll have this question repeatedly. I hope not, but let's see. But today it was very clear. Thank you so much, Arati ji. Also, this chapter is named Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. For me, it's very confusing. Jnana is knowledge, which is theory, and opposite of karma, which is action. Is it not? So why call this chapter Jnana Karma and also then sannyasa, which is renunciation? So it's what exactly is Bhagavan trying to tell us with the title? It seems to me very confusing. Obviously, to me, I'm sure there is a solid explanation.
Yeah, sure. These titles are not given by Bhagavan, as we saw.
Yes, no, not
It
chapters,
was,
no
yeah,
titles.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Bhagavan Vyasa wrote it in the form of verses, and somebody along the way has come and segregated the verses into the chapters and named them also. Sometimes one chapter can have more than one names. It is based on the topic. What is the main topic being discussed in the chapter? And if you see, Bhagavan has actually completed the whole teaching in the first three chapters. In fact, the first two chapters, the second chapter holds the main teaching. And then the third chapter began because Arjuna had a question. You please tell me which one I should pursue. Should I take up sannyasa or should I do this, my karma, waging the war? And then Bhagavan clearly told him there are two lifestyles and all that, karma yoga, jnana yoga, and he explained everything. Now, Arjuna may have a question. See, you are saying moksha is possible. What is moksha? This freedom, complete freedom from this sense of limitation, from this bondage, from non acceptance, from dissatisfaction, from mortality. This moksha, you have shown that is the goal of life. And the means for moksha is gaining jnanam about myself. Self knowledge is the means for moksha that you have clarified. And how to gain this self knowledge, in that there is a choice of a lifestyle that was clarified. So one can take up the pursuit of karma yoga or jnana yoga. That is a lifestyle. So the people who have complete vairagya, where one has seen the limitations of fulfilling desires, have seen that they are not going to give me complete satisfaction in life. So they have dropped. In fact, they have outgrown desires, and now they have learned that only the self knowledge is going to deliver, and they are committed to the self knowledge. They are called sannyasis who have renounced this active lifestyle. They are called sannyasis. For them, jnana yoga is prescribed. Jnana yoga is complete commitment to gaining this knowledge through Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Shravanam is the inquiry into the Shastra with the help of the teacher. Then Mananam is logically dismissing the doubts that the intellect may question. And then Nididhyasanam is overcoming this wrong orientation that I am still limited. So this is the process of Jnana Yoga, and Bhagavan also prescribed Karma Yoga for people who do not yet have this kind of vairagya and this commitment to solely pursue knowledge, but still they have some irons in their fire. They want to play some roles. They have some legitimate desires. So for them, those who want to pursue activity along with this knowledge, the lifestyle of Karma Yoga is mentioned. Now, any karma is, we saw, any action, it is based on a desire. And now Bhagavan says desires, if you keep having desires, it's not going to deliver. Now, Arjuna may have a question. So, you are asking me to have this knowledge for which I should not have any other desire, but then still you are asking me to perform action which requires having desires. So, how is this possible? So, he says, I want to give up karma. That is called Kevala Karma Sannyasa. So, two types of sannyasa are there. One is a lifestyle where all duties that one had to perform in that particular role are given up. Why? Not because they are difficult to handle, not because there is a nagging wife when there are children troubling me, or there is a loss in the business, or there is a love failure, not because of that. Sannyasa is taken
Focusing
up
on yeah.
because one has gained that vairagya, one has understood that moksha is the goal of life and wants to pursue it solely. So that is giving up all actions, and it is allowed in the Shastra. The same Shastra which asks the person to take up duties now says you are free to give up your duties and take up this pursuit of knowledge. That is called Karma Sannyasa, where the actions are renounced. That is also called Kevala Karma Sannyasa. But then, what Bhagavan is teaching Arjuna is not this kind of sannyasa that you give up action, then only you will get knowledge. Not this kind of sannyasa, because being a sannyasi requires a contemplative mind, some inner leadership, vairagya, That is dispassion, some objectivity, being able to accept whatever comes. All this preparation is required for a sannyasi. One has to have that emotional maturity for being a sannyasi. And you cannot choose to be contemplative. You cannot choose to be mature. It has to happen. So, what is in our hands? To live a lifestyle that can lead us to be contemplative. That is Karma Yoga. So, in order to gain this Atma Jnanam, a contemplative mind, relatively peaceful mind is required, free from the hold of Raga Dveshas. But to gain that contemplativeness, to gain that inner leisure, one has to live a life of Karma Yoga and gain this. So Bhagavan says, I know that I don't think you have this kind of a contemplative frame of mind. I can see you are so
It's ready
agitated.
to
Yeah,
wage war at any moment, right? Yes.
exactly. Yeah. Now, after
Yes.
the 18 chapters are over, he's going to wage the war, and he's going to
Yes.
fight so much, so fiercely in the battle.
Yes.
So it is as a kshatriya, even if you take up sannyasa, you're going to go and fight there. So
Hmm.
Lord Krishna sees what Arjuna is made of, and he says, "This is not the sannyasa that I want you to take up. What I want you to take up is Jnana Karma Sannyasa." That is the topic
Okay.
of this fourth chapter. Jnana Karma Sannyasa. What does it mean? Jnanena Karma Sannyasa. Jnanena means by knowledge one gives up karma. There are two sannyasas we saw. One is the lifestyle where
Yes.
one gives up karma, that is karma sannyasa. But this is
It's
jnana
focusing
karma.
only on jnanam and is not doing other activities. Regular activities are given up and taking on the sannyasi clothes or whatever, and then kashaya vastra and only concentrating on the shastra study contemplation. Versus
Yes.
what Bhagavan is telling Arjuna, so that he can be prepared to get the jnana.
That is karma yoga, yes.
Ah,
But there
ah,
is another kind of sannyasa
stage.
here, which is the
Uh-huh.
topic of this fourth chapter,
Okay,
which
okay,
is
okay.
actually the nature of oneself.
Ah,
Being free from being a doer, a karta. Karta means the doer. The nature of Atma, oneself, is akarta, being a non doer. When that is understood, even while performing action, one understands that I am not performing any action. So that is called Jnana Karma Sannyasa. This sannyasa is not giving up action, but understanding that I perform no action, even while performing action, because of the knowledge that I am not the doer. Understanding I am not the doer requires understanding of what my real nature is.
yes.
Because what is karma? If we analyze what is action, what is required for action, so many factors are involved in action. Now, in speaking, in this action of speaking, so many things are involved. What is the tongue is talking all right, but then the whole voice apparatus
Oh,
is involved. And
yeah.
just because there is a voice apparatus, talking will not take place. Some blabbering will take place. So the mind, the intellect has to be there behind
Yes.
it, directing what is to be said, right? But then behind all this, who is there? Before I start speaking, am I there or not? After
Yes.
I complete speaking, am I there or not? So, who is
Yes.
this speaker? Even without speaking, I am there. So, who is this I through which this speaking takes place? All that is self knowledge. What is the nature of oneself? Atma Jnanam. That was talked about in the second chapter already. The nature
Yes.
of Atma was revealed as the one who is limitless, who is changeless, who is without any birth, without any beginning, and who is not subject to destruction. So the
Yes.
nature of Atma was also revealed. The real nature of oneself was revealed. And then when one understands one's real nature to be limitless, no action is possible. So even while performing action through the body, I perform no action. When that understanding happens, That is called Jnana Karma Sannyasa. Jnanena Karma Sannyasa. The renunciation of action because of the knowledge of myself being the non-doer.
So that means we can do anything in the world. And if we have that knowledge, the jnana, then it is a jnana karma sannyasa only. If we are able to live in the world with that knowledge that I am not the doer, I am Atma, and this action is being performed by this body, mind, sense complex. And if that knowledge is constantly there, and it's very tough. But let's say, hypothetically, if that knowledge is there in a person, then the person can do anything as a dharmic activity. Person can do anything and still be considered sannyasi.
Yes, that's what Bhagavan is actually telling Arjuna. Just because I told you that Jnanam is the means for moksha, it does not involve you giving up karma. Even while performing karma, you can have this knowledge and you perform the action. He had said in the previous chapter that look at King Janaka. He was a jnani, but still he performed his duties. He had the knowledge, he had Atma Jnanam, but he continued to perform his duties. So it doesn't matter if you are a Grihastha or a sannyasi for gaining this knowledge. Gaining this knowledge is important. But
Yes.
then after you gain this knowledge, see, after one has gained this knowledge, kamya karma being there is very, very, rare. Because there is nothing for the person, to fulfill, to be happy. The person is already full, already complete, understands I am limitless. So desires are naturally not there. So this kamya karma will not be there. But if the person is in a particular role which requires some duties to be performed, one still performs the duties even while knowing that I am not the doer. So
Beautiful.
one, yeah, is allowed to perform the duties, or one can give up the duties and take up sannyasa and sit quietly also. Both are possible. But for gaining the jnanam, one does not necessarily need to renounce karma. One has to gain knowledge. That's the whole
Wonderful.
point.
Very, very beautifully said, Artiji. So that means there are no four paths to Jnanam, the path, because many of us have learned growing up that there is a path of devotion, action, meditation, knowledge, bhakti yoga path, or karma yoga, dhyana, or raja yoga, or jnana yoga. So these are separate paths, like pathways, and anybody can choose one. So obviously, from what you're saying, which seems very clear to me, there is no match with this kind of four path kind of a description. So Bhagwan is not talking about these paths as being different. He's
Of
not
course,
giving us
they
four
are two
paths.
different paths. Yeah, the goal
There's
is the same. Moksha is the goal. For gaining the goal of moksha, two lifestyles clearly were mentioned by Bhagavan in the previous chapter, third chapter. Lokesmin vividha nittha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. He said that. So, what about these four paths or various paths? Your question. Some people give this. I've heard this example also being given. There is a temple atop a hill. So to reach the temple, you can go by various ways. If you want, you can go up the steps, or if you want, you can take a car and go up the roadway. Or if
or
you
hike it.
have a little more means, yeah, you can take up a chopper and land there directly on the top, or you can hike through the mountain. There's so many ways you can reach the temple. So, like that, there are various paths that one can gain moksha. So they also say based on the personality of the person, for the emotional bhakti yoga, for the intellectual jnana yoga, for the one who has, who is extrovert, then karma yoga, then who are not having any of these, then raja yoga. It's not like that. There are various ways for gaining the preparedness, for gaining this knowledge. Once we understand what the problem is, then we'll be clear about what the solution can be. Here, the problem is of self ignorance, not knowing my real nature. What can be the solution for self ignorance? Only self knowledge. So, once I understand that self knowledge is the only means for gaining that self knowledge, Bhagavan says two lifestyles are possible. So for gaining that self-knowledge, I need to have that prepared mind. For gaining that prepared mind, I can take up any of the various methods available. But Bhagavan clearly says only two lifestyles. So you may ask, what is the role of bhakti in this? So one should who is a bhakta? The one who has bhakti is a bhakta, right? What is bhakti? Devotion. It is recognizing the presence of Ishvara in one's life. It is recognizing Bhagavan's presence. That is called bhakti. Recognizing one's relationship with Bhagavan. That is called bhakti. And without this knowledge, no karma yoga is possible. A karma yogi is a bhakta. Only a bhakta can be a karma yogi. Because karma yogi, being a karma yogi involves understanding Ishvara as the karma phala data.
Yes.
As the very creator of this entire universe, he has put me in this role. Therefore, I offer all my actions as Ishvara Arpana. It requires Ishvara's recognition. So only a bhakta can be a karma yogi. What about jnana yoga? A sannyasi also has to be a bhakta. After having lived a lifestyle of karma yoga, only the person can become a sannyasi in this life or previous life. So bhakti is necessary to start in this pursuit. And bhakti culminates in jnana. In the seventh chapter, Bhagavan is going to talk about various kinds of bhaktas. And there jnani is, Bhagavan is glorifying jnani as the highest bhakta. So jnanam culminates in bhakti.
Bhakti.
So a sannyasi is also a bhakta, a karma yogi is also a bhakta. So without bhakti, this pursuit doesn't start. So here, bhakti yoga is not a particular path.
Not
Karma
separate.
yogi does. No, it's not a separate path as mentioned by Bhagavan. Here, karma yogi performs all actions with bhakti. And a jnana yogi, sannyasi also starts with bhakti. In fact, for sannyasi, what is the only role he plays? He has given up all roles. All karmas are given up. All relationships are given up. The only role that the person can take up is either of a student or a teacher. And the only relationship that he has is with Bhagavan. He or she is able to be under Bhagavan's complete surrender. Person should be able to completely surrender one's life to Bhagavan. My next meal, I don't care where it comes from because I have given the responsibility to Bhagavan to take care of me. I am doing what is prescribed by Bhagavan, pursuing moksha by taking up the study of the Shastra. So let Bhagavan take care of me. That is the attitude of a sannyasi. That is bhakti. So bhakti is imbued in both karma yoga as well as in this jnana yoga for a sannyasi. So it's not a separate path as prescribed by Bhagavan.
It needs a lot of courage to be a bhakta, to just give up and
Yes,
surrender to
yes,
Bhagwan and trust in Bhagwan's will. So it's not
yes.
easy. We think bhakti is the easiest way to be, as in, you're singing bhajans or, chanting something. From what you're telling me, it needs a lot of, you need to be bold and be very courageous to be a
Yes,
bhakta.
you need to give up this sense of controllership. You're trying to control everything. Things are in my hand. So give that
Uh,
to be able to give that notion, give up that notion. That's very difficult.
And that is beautifully said, Artiji. But in this chapter, a bit of a confusing thing is Bhagwan talks of action and inaction. So action when there is non-action, and then in inaction also there is action. So it's all very contradictory. And I know there's a verse, I've looked at it a few times, but it's very confusing. So something that you can unfold on this.
Sure. Yeah, there is a verse there where Bhagavan says, Karmanya karma yah pashet, akarmani cha karma yah, sa buddhiman manusheshu, sa yukta karma kritsna karma krit. So he says, the one who is able to see action with reference to inaction and inaction with reference to action is buddhiman, is the most intelligent person, and he has performed all the karmas to be performed. So, of course, it looks a little confusing. What does it mean to say seeing action in inaction and seeing inaction in action? How does one understand all this? So one understands first what is the nature of karma. So what does Bhagavan first say? Karmani akarma yaha pashyet. The one who sees pashyet. Karmani akarma. In action, one sees inaction.
Yes.
With reference to action,
Inaction.
one sees, yeah, inaction. Actionlessness, basically. Yeah. So how is that possible? One should understand what is actually karma, what is action. Various factors are involved in action. What is the main factor involved? Karta, the doer. Without the doer, there is no action. Karma is also defined as kartritantram, that which is centered on the doer. How can I become a doer? Only when there is a free will, only when there is a choice that I can do, I need not do, I can do differently. This choice, when it is given to me, only then I can be a karta, I can be a doer. We can see that in other creatures in this creation, they don't seem to have that will based action. Therefore, they do not have any karma phala also. Punya papa, they do not accrue because there is no kartritvam. The sense of doership is not there. It's all inbuilt. It is all programmed, pre-programmed. So no kartritvam is there. Therefore, no karma is also done. In fact, the animals are called mukta. Mukta means already free because they are free from the sense of doership. Now, karma, action, is centered on the karta. Right? Now, what is action? That this person who is considering oneself to be the karta chooses to perform. Right? So, kartritvam is the center of karma. But then, what is the nature of myself? When I understand, then I understand I am not the karta. I am Atma, which is limitless, which is not confined to this body, mind, sense complex, which is changeless. Therefore, no karma is possible. What is the criteria of karma? Some change. Only when there is a change, some action is involved. Right? If I have to speak, there has to be some change.
Yes.
Right? Some movement has to be there, some change has to be there. That involves space and time. Right? Action involves space and time. And it involves also the presence of parts for any action to take place. But then my real nature is being free from any division. I am partless whole. I am limitless whole. When that is my real nature, I understand that through the instruments, actions are being performed. We saw in the third chapter also. Prakritehe kriyamanani sarvani karmani. The Prakriti, the Gunas, they are performing action through the body, mind, senses. But I, who is behind all this, which is the reality of all this, I am not any doer. I am not the performer of action. I am witness to this action. Through me, all this action is performed, but then I am not the performer of action. So
Because
when
I am
Bhagavan,
beyond space and time, and action is within space and time, you're saying. So the
yes,
I is limitless, it's beyond space and time and causation. Whereas the body, mind, sense complex, like let's say Kavita, is within that space and time causation. So the one who is acting is this body, mind, sense complex, but the one who is witnessing is beyond space and time causation. So there is this
yes,
separation.
yeah, yes. So even for being a witness, there is some duality involved. There is a
Hmm.
witnessed and the witness. That also
Hmm.
involves some duality. But when I understand that I am the reality behind even the witness and the witnessed, I
Hmm.
am the reality of the doer and what is being done and this action when the whole thing is just me. Like in the dream, I am performing some action. So there is a particular individual body, there is a mind, there are senses which are performing the action, there are various instruments of action, and there is somebody who is receiving the result of action. All that, what is it in reality? It is just me. In me, the whole action takes place.
It's all happening.
And
Yes.
the experience of the result of action also takes place. So I am the reality in which all action takes place. When one understands that, then one is able to falsify the sense of doership, which is actually false. Why do I think I am the doer? Because I identify with this body mind sense complex and I say
Yes.
I am doing. But when one understands that I am not this body mind sense complex, I am in fact limitless Atma, which does not perform any action. So then, even while performing action, I see there is inaction. So that's what Bhagavan says. Akarmani or karmani akarma yaha pashyet. There
Yes.
in his commentary, Bhashakara, Sri Adi Shankaracharya, he gives this example. When a person is going on a boat, say, the person is in a boat and is going on the river, then on the banks one sees some trees. So when the boat is moving, it looks as though the trees are moving.
Hmm.
We must have witnessed this even in
Yes. Yes.
when we are traveling.
Yeah, movement.
Ah,
Yes.
actually, what is happening? They are stationary, but
Hmm.
they look as though they are moving.
Hmm.
So where there is inaction, there seems to be some action.
Hmm.
And he gives another example to show the reverse.
Hmm.
When we see a ship, say, sailing far away, till a particular point we can see it moving. But
Hmm.
beyond a certain point, it looks stationary. It
Yes.
looks as though it is not moving. I think even if we see some flight,
Aer-
uh,
yes.
uh, yeah,
Airplanes or
then
things.
it looks as though it is not moving, but it's actually moving at a very great speed. So
Yes.
even while performing action, we
Hmm.
seem to, it looks like there is no action performed.
Hmm.
Now, how does one see inaction in action? We have seen. But
Hmm.
how does one see action in inaction?
Hmm.
So that we can understand. See, you decide, today I'm not going to do anything. Okay? Say, that's all done. I'm done.
Hmm.
I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to sit
Hmm.
quiet.
Hmm.
So is that performing or not performing an action?
Not performing physically, but mentally I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, see, this action is centered on doership, we have seen. Karta is the central factor for this action. So I am choosing not to act. That is also an
Hmm.
action. Sitting
Hmm.
quietly is also an action. Not speaking is also an action. You try that.
Because a
You
doer
try.
is deciding what to do. The karta is
Yeah.
deciding, I'm going to be quiet.
Yes.
Karta is deciding, I'm going to sleep. So there's a kartrutvam, therefore it's an action.
Exactly. Yes, there is doership behind that. Just because no change is involved, it doesn't mean it is not action.
Correct.
Just deciding that I will be quiet, deciding that I will not do anything. So I am performing the action of not doing the action.
Correct.
So that Bhagavan says that even when the person says I am not performing the action, the person is mentally making that sankalpa, that doership is that I am not performing anything.
So the I-ness
So
is
this is
there,
the,
the doership is there.
yes,
Yes.
the doership is there. That ahankara, that I am not performing any action, that is there very much. So that still is considered as action.
Beautiful.
That is
Very
illustrated by a beautiful story where the gopis, they want to cross the Yamuna and go to the other side, and they want to give bhiksha to a sadhu living on the other side. But they find that it is flooded. One fine morning, they take up all their pots and pans to give food. They find that Yamuna is flooded. So they rush to Krishna and say, please help us. Then Krishna comes to the bank and says, oh Yamuna, if I am a brahmachari, please give way to these gopis.
Hmm. He's also
All the
listening.
gopis laugh. You,
Yeah.
Krishna, who has 16,008 wives,
Yeah.
you're calling yourself a brahmachari. How in the world are we going to cross? But
Yeah.
then Yamuna gives way.
Hmm.
They're able to go.
Hmm.
They are quite surprised, but at least they have the way and they go. And then
Hmm.
they feed the sadhu. The sadhu
Hmm.
eats to his full, burps
Hmm.
also.
Hmm.
Now they have a problem again. How do they come back? It's still flooded. They say,
Hmm.
Sadhu, please help us. And the
Hmm.
sadhu says, if I
Hmm.
have not eaten even a single grain, oh
Yeah.
Yamuna, please give way.
Hmm.
Yamuna gives way. And
Oh.
the gopis are shocked. How is this? Krishna says, I'm a brahmachari. And this sadhu says, I've not eaten anything. So, what is
Yeah.
the standpoint? That is very important here. From the standpoint of the body, of course, Krishna is not a brahmachari. But the
Hmm.
standpoint of Atma,
Hmm.
Krishna is Nitya Brahmachari.
Hmm.
In fact, in the Ashtotra Namas, that is one
Hmm.
name for
Yes.
doing Archana to Lord Krishna, where he is Brahmachari. And again, how does the sadhu claim that I have not eaten anything?
Hmm.
As the
Okay.
indriyas, as the body, of course, there is an eater. But when one understands I am not the eater, I am not the doer of any action, I am Atma, then there is
Hmm.
no eating. So that is
Yes.
the standpoint that he says. So
Beautiful.
one can see inaction even while acting. When one switches the standpoint, one when
I think that's very
understands
key.
standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The standpoint is the key from where are you looking at? That is
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you so much, Aarti ji. One last question. This has been excellent. I'm really I find that I have a lot of clarity, especially this chapter seemed very confusing, but it has so much packed in it. For example, this last question is to do with how do you approach a guru? And this chapter talks about it. There is surrender, there is seva involved, there is proper questioning. So, can you please explain to us what each of this means? And I know there is this beautiful quote. So, what does it mean, and how should we approach a guru? And how are we told to approach a guru?
Sure. Yes, here in this chapter, Bhagavan gives the procedure for gaining this knowledge. With the verse, he says, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So the three procedure he gives, three steps he gives for gaining this knowledge. So first he says, pranipatena. Pranipata means prostrating to the teacher. Of course, for gaining this knowledge, the first important factor is having a guru
Hmm.
who has this knowledge to share with me, to impart that knowledge to me. So, after having found the guru, who is a Shrotriya, who is a Brahmanishta, all this also is said in the
And it
Shastra.
has to be a living
Shrotriya,
guru, so you can actually teach.
living
You can
guru,
teach,
yes, yes,
right?
yes.
Because a lot of
And that
people say that
person,
they have a guru who is no longer in the body, which is also fine. But I think there is no teaching possible then.
exactly, yes. So, a teacher who is not living can be an inspiration.
Hmm.
But for this knowledge to take place,
Hmm.
one has to have a live guru with whom one can interact
Hmm.
and guru can unfold this knowledge, and if I have any questions I can ask and get it
Hmm.
clarified.
Hmm.
So this knowledge is like understanding this famous energy mass equation.
Hmm.
E is equal to mc square. How does one understand? One requires so much of background, so much of preparation to understand, so much of clarity is required in each on each side. So that has to happen through a systematic teaching, unfoldment based on what the Upanishad says, what the Shastra says. So now one has to find a guru who will present, who will unfold, reveal the knowledge which is there in the Shastra. So having found that guru, how does one approach? So first, pranipata means prostration.
Hmm.
What does it signify? It signifies shraddha in the guru,
Hmm.
bhakti in the guru.
Hmm.
So it shows my humility first, that I am here to learn from you. I am open to receive this knowledge from you. I have devotion towards you. So that how does one show in our culture? It is shown through this act of prostrating. Yeah. So that is the first step, Bhagavan says. So one has to have this Shraddha, Bhakti, and this humility. Yes. This openness, basically. Because this Ahankara is a very tough thing to give up, as we have seen. To be able to surrender to somebody else is not that easy. We can see children nowadays, they hesitate to do namaskara to some elder. Why should I do? Why is he such a big person that I have to fall at his feet? That requires this giving up of ahankara. In fact, the ahankara drops when one sees that this person can give me the knowledge, then it automatically drops. So that prostration is natural. So that is first step. And then pariprashnena. Pariprashna means asking proper questions. We can see even in the Bhagavad Gita, we come to 18 chapters only because of the questions raised by Arjuna. Any teaching involves this teacher-student dialogue. That implies the ability and the freedom that the student has to clarify if some doubts come up. If it looks as though there is some contradiction, it looks as though there is some vagueness, there is some something which is not making sense, then one is allowed to ask questions. In fact, in one of the Upanishads, Chandogya Upanishad, there is a story where Lord Brahma, he declares that I will give this knowledge which will give you moksha. Whoever wants you, please come and learn. Then from the Devas, Indra is nominated and sent. And from the Asuras, this Virochana, who is the king of the Asuras, he is nominated and sent. When they both reach, then he says, you please maintain brahmacharya for 32 years, then I will teach you. So they come for knowledge, but they are asked to do seva. That is the next step. But one can ask questions, that is said, but one has to ask appropriate questions at the appropriate time. So asking questions is part of the teaching. So pariprashna is part of the teaching. So through asking the appropriate questions at the right time, you please get this knowledge. And then the third one is seva. Seva is again in we have this word shushrusha. Have you heard shushruksha?
Yes.
The general meaning is seva for shushruksha. But actually, shushruksha means the desire to hear, yes, to listen.
Shrotamich.
To what? To listen to the Shastra. For this teaching, for this learning, there is a desire. But then it's translated as seva. Why? Because how do I express my desire to know? By serving the teacher in whatever way possible. So that is just showing my desire to learn. So in whatever way possible that is helpful to the teacher, I perform the seva. It is also part of expressing my gratitude for the knowledge that I am receiving. That is also expressed in seva. And also seva becomes a means for gaining that preparedness. If I have some particular attitude problems or some ashuddhi in the mind, then this seva becomes a means for getting over those wrong attitudes. So all this Bhagavan mentions as the way to approach a particular goal. So pranipata, pariprashna, and seva.
Yes, thank you. Beautiful. Artiji will talk more, of course, next time we meet. But for now, can you please consolidate everything, give us a summary like you always do? I feel like I've understood chapter 4 better, but would love to hear from you a brief summary.
Sure. So we saw how Bhagavan starts, or this chapter starts, the fourth chapter starts by Bhagavan glorifying this knowledge by showing the parampara that he was the originator of this knowledge and he gave it to the Lord's Son and it has come down. And then further, the next topic that Bhagavan takes up is the avataara. Avataara rahasya he gives. Why does Bhagavan take avataara? And he shows what is the difference between his avatara and Jiva's Janma. So he says, I take up avataara. What does it mean? Because of other people's prayers, it generates some punya karma. And that karma manifests as a particular form that Bhagavan takes up in order to perform some karma which solves the people's problem. So whenever the sadhus they pray that we have so much of trouble, somebody is creating trouble, you please protect us, you please save us. Then that karma actually becomes the source for Bhagavan taking up an avatara. And is Bhagavan like any other jiva taking up a body because of karma to exhaust and experience one's karma? No, Bhagavan says, I, out of my own free will, I pick up a form, keeping Maya under my control. So that is the difference between Ishvara and Jiva. Ishvara is using Maya, keeping Maya under control, taking up a form, but a Jiva is under the control of Maya. Helplessly takes a body in order to exhaust the karma. So Bhagavan does not take a janma for exhausting karma, nor does he take janma helplessly, but out of his own free will, keeping Maya under control, Bhagavan takes up a particular form. And he tells Arjuna, in fact, Arjuna raises a question after Bhagavan says, I gave this knowledge to Lord Sun at the beginning of creation. He says, I know when you were born and we are of the same age, but you say that you taught Lord Sun at the beginning of creation. How is that possible? So then Bhagavan says, I am not any simple jiva. I am Bhagavan himself and I have taken avatara. He says, we both have taken many janmas. I know all the janmas that I have taken, but you do not know any of them. So that is the difference between jiva and Ishvara. That avatara, all the background behind it, Bhagavan gives. We saw why he takes avatara to destroy adharma and to establish dharma. Then the next section of the chapter deals with this Jnana Yoga, this main topic of Jnana Karma Sannyasa. How one is able to be a doer, how one can be a non-doer even while performing action by gaining this knowledge. That is unfolded by Bhagavan in the next section,
Yes.
where all these verses come.
Yes.
Karmani akarmayaha pashyet, akarmani cha karmayaha, all that Bhagavan gives. And there also he says, understand that giving up action is only through jnanam. He says jnanam is the most, it is the best purifier. It's the most exalted purifier. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. And he says, Jnanagni dagdha karmanam. So all the karma can be completely burnt by this jnanam that I am not the karta. So what is already false, the sense of doership, is falsified by this knowledge. And knowledge is the highest purifier. That he says, even if a person has done so many papas, just this jnanam can make him completely free from all papas. Once the person has understood, one should have given up performing those karmas, all right, but after having gained this knowledge that I am not the doer, one is completely freed up. All that Bhagavan gives in the next section. And in the last section, Bhagavan talks about how to gain this jnanam. What are the sadhanas for gaining this jnanam? And finally, which we saw, which is this, there is an important verse, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. There, the importance of having Shraddha. And what is Shraddha? Having this understanding that Shastra is the pramana, the means of knowledge for this knowledge, basically. Shastra, the Veda, is the means for gaining this knowledge. That understanding is called Shraddha, and the same Shraddha is passed to the Guru. What the Guru says is the same Shastra, whatever is said is in the Shastra, I am able to have that Shraddha. In fact, it is defined. What is Shraddha? Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Satya Buddhi. Satya Buddhi. Understanding what it is valid. What is valid? Shastras and Guru's Vakyas are valid. Seeing that is called Shraddha. And only a person who has Shraddha in the Shastra and the teacher can gain this knowledge. That is revealed by Bhagavan. And along with that, Bhagavan gives these three steps for approaching the Guru. And apart from that, Bhagavan also says, not just Shraddha, Tatparaha Sanyatendriyaha. The person should have commitment to gain this knowledge. The person should be able to give up everything else for this knowledge. That takparata, that commitment has to be there. And sanyata indriya, the person has to have discipline with respect to the body mind sense complex. Only then this pursuit of knowledge is possible, and gaining this knowledge and moksha is possible. Having said that, he further glorifies this knowledge at the end, and finally he says, "O Arjuna, you cut off all the doubts regarding this Atma knowledge, what is karma, what is the nature of Atma, all these doubts, you please cut off with this clear knowledge and you do your karma." He finally says, goes Arjuna to
Go
perform
back to action,
duty. Yeah, you
duty.
please perform your duty. So, with that, the chapter concludes, the fourth chapter, where Bhagavan
Right.
talks about Jnanena Karma Sannyasa.
Jnanena Karma Sannyasa. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Arati ji. It was absolutely delightful to listen to you. And until we meet again for the next chapter and its discussion, Namaste Hari Om. Shri Guru Bhyo.